These are eastern grey kangaroos. This one's a female. But to us, she's not just any kangaroo. Her name is Columbine. She belongs to a mob of 60 wild kangaroos that we live with to make this film. During our 2 years among them, we learned to recognise all the kangaroos by face. We began to see how each one went about life in their own way. We learned that behind every face, there's a personality. The kangaroos live in this remote farming valley in the mountains of eastern Australia. The history of each roo is known, for a team of biologists have been quietly observing them for 15 years. They give every new joey born in the valley a name. What follows are scenes from 1 year in the life of the mob. It's summer, and Columbine is about to give birth. Kangaroos are marsupials. They give birth to tiny embryos that complete their development in the pouch. It's only a month since Columbine's infant was a mere fertilized egg. Yet in a few moments, it will emerge from the birth canal and have to climb the length of her belly to reach the pouch. This little embryo grew up to be called Jaffa. Having clawed his way out of the birth sac, he must make the climb ahead without assistance. His mother's hands, though nimble, cannot help such a fragile body. He's still blind. His instinct is simply to head upwards by grabbing fistfuls of fur. It's a perilous time for young Jaffa. He could miss the pouch or fall to the ground where the sun would shrivel him. His arms are strong, but his hind limbs are still only buds. His minute lungs are already functional. He's breathing air. Inside, and safely attached to a nipple, Jaffa's development continued here for 5 more months through summer and autumn. Winter in the valley is a time of cold, frosty nights and clear, sunny days. To escape the freezing air settling on the valley floor, the roos spend the night on the high ridges. They feed quietly through the dark hours, then at first light there's a restlessness as everyone prepares for the new day. As soon as the sun breaks through to the lower slopes, the roos head down through the mist to graze in the warmth. This female carefully thinks about which place she'll head for. It's very much her own decision how she and her joey spend their day and the company they keep. There are currently 60 adults in the whole group, the mob as it's called. They all know each other, but it's rare for them all to meet in one place at one time. Usually it's like this, with males and females coming together in small groups scattered along the valley. Females seek out their relatives or friends, avoiding those they don't get on with. By keeping together, they increase the chance someone will see or hear a predator. Dingoes, farm dogs and eagles take up to 80% of joeys each year. Even while grazing, every mother is carefully sifting through the sounds of the valley. A magpie carolling means all is well. But a shriek of alarm brings an instant response. Unless they're hungry, dingoes mostly hunt at night, and at this hour they're usually heading home. It's crucial that mothers train their joeys to get safely back to the pouch when called. This is Sunshade. Like the little male Jaffa, she too was born in summer. Her mother, called Eucalypt, has chosen mid-morning to begin her daughter's lessons. After 5 months cooped up in the pouch, Sunshade can't wait to get out, but her mother has total control and pulls tight. She won't relax her pouch until she's certain there's no sign of danger. Eucalypt calls Sunshade to come back. She bends low so her pouch is easier to enter and gently coaxes with her hand. Eucalypt is a diligent mother, and we saw her repeat this lesson many times. Although young, she had already successfully raised 2 joeys. Jaffa has blossomed since he's climbed to the pouch. His mother, Columbine, always seemed less particular about lessons than Eucalypt. After several days of these outings, Jaffa is still utterly bewildered by his mother's anatomy. He can't find her pouch, and there's no guiding hand to help. Perhaps Columbine's casual attitude will instill independence in Jaffa. But the risk is high. Columbine's previous 8 young have died, and right now Jaffa is so confused he'd never make it to safety should a dingo attack. He finds his own way to her hands and turns home to the pouch. This is Cedar. He was top of the male hierarchy that year, a position he'd won through his fighting abilities. He had access to all the females, but the number of matings he actually achieved depended more on his perseverance and cleverness. He spent much of his time travelling to check on which females were coming into heat. He follows protocol by clucking his greeting. The problem for Cedar is that there's no set mating season. Each of the 40 females has her own cycle, and it's up to him to keep track of them all. The size of the female's pouch may give him a clue, but to be certain, he must assess the hormones in her urine. If she's likely to come into heat within days, he'll stay. Otherwise, he moves on. Relying on his knowledge of their haunts, he aims to find each female every few days. There are 20 other males in the valley, all interested in females. When Cedar meets them on his rounds, he takes care to remind them of his authority. On entering a group, Cedar expects any males present to defer to him. They should jump too, then crouch low and cough. Cedar has one main rival to watch for. His name is Ursid, and he's Cedar's equal in size. To force Ursid's response, Cedar arches his back and struts on his toes, exaggerating his size and strength. Continuing to flex his muscles, he sweeps scent from his chest across a tussock. Though his display is directed at Ursid, some females also take interest in whether he's still the top male. He highlights his scent marking with the smell of his urine. But Ursid remains unimpressed and in no hurry to rise to the occasion. He can taunt Cedar for only so long, but he must cough or Cedar will fight him. Like all young joeys, Sunshade is kept in the safety of the pouch day and night, except for brief playtimes. 2 weeks have passed since Sunshade's first excursion. She's learning to use her hands and trying to find her feet. It's not easy because the tendons in her legs are powerful springs. Eucalypt keeps her daughter from straying with a series of soft calls. When she calls "come quick," Sunshade shows that she's learned her lessons well. Like Sunshade, Jaffa is also 5.5 months old, but his mother lets him wander off while she goes on with feeding. That an eagle could swoop down and carry him away is not something a joey considers, but a mother should. Frightened, Jaffa calls for his mother. Columbine hears him, but is not unduly concerned. Jaffa will have to find his own way home. He's happy when he's touched the pouch, though frustrated that his mother won't stand up to let him suckle. Columbine was old, at least 12 years, yet Jaffa was all the family she had. Sunshade had many relatives, all descended from her grandmother named Dew. Dew's exceptional skills as a mother have passed to her daughters and in turn to their offspring. Her clan is 11 strong, the largest in the valley and still growing. One thing the biologists have learned from this mob is that females are more likely to succeed in raising young if they have relatives nearby. At 8 months, Sunshade was becoming acquainted with her grandmother's clan. These aunts and cousins will form the core of her circle of friends the Rouge she'll seek to be with, and she'll inherit a share of their range. By raising her own offspring here, Sunshade will continue to learn from her mother, and she'll benefit from the whole clan's accumulated knowledge of the valley, where to go and what to do in times of drought or flood. It's no accident that Sunshade is a girl. A mother can determine the sex of her joey. How she does so is a mystery, but she tends to leave having sons until she's old. Boys move away after a year, so they can't benefit from any ongoing support, but daughters can. So Eucalypt has Sunshade in her youth to share as many years with her as possible. At 8 months, Jaffa still looks scrawny for his age, but to us he seemed full of curiosity and pluck. Now that he has better command of his legs, and most of the morning out of the pouch, Jaffa has become an adventurer. He runs his expeditions as sorties, hopping back and forth from his mother. It's a pattern that saves him from getting lost, though he is careful to check she hasn't moved. When Jaffa grows up, he, like all male joeys, will leave his mother. He'll explore the whole valley, then valleys beyond, and choose a mob to settle in. He will be replaced in this valley by those born outside. This way brothers don't mate with sisters. Not that Jaffa has any sisters. Columbine did have daughters when she was young, but they all died. Jaffa's immediate problem is how to lie down. He's seen others do it, but it doesn't feel quite right after being in the pouch. Soon, Jaffa won't be riding in the pouch. Then it will be up to him to outrun the dingoes. In the weeks that followed, he practiced every day. It has taken Cedar 10 years to reach the top of the male hierarchy. Rising to 3 meters, he's an intimidating sight, casting a shadow over Ursid's ambitions. These displays take years to perfect, and teenagers start practicing, in private, one tentative step at a time. Chest swivelling on the ground is very difficult, so scent marking begins more simply. Males graduate to practicing on their peers. Pegasus shows much promise, and the younger male is watching every detail. While these displays are used to assert rank, disputes are resolved by boxing contests. This too has to be learned. The larger male, named Capro, is giving young El Nino some practice without exploiting their difference in size. Usually, we'd see El Nino working out with his 2-year-old friend. Mostly they wrestle, keeping their heads back to protect their eyes. As yet, they're not very good at kicking. They can use their tail as a prop, but when they're older, it will be strong enough to stand on. A sense of timing also comes with practice. As males grow older, play increasingly turns to contest, and every male must participate. These 6-year-olds, Capro and Méchant, are disputing the 5th position on the ladder. Periodically, males choose to drop out of the boxing circuit while they quietly feed up to put on muscle. After this burst of growth, they make a comeback and fight for a higher rank. They have their own way of scoring points, and whoever loses must cough. Large, high-ranking males kick with enormous power. Their raking toenails can disembowel, but their belly skin is thickened as a defence. Though deaths from these contests are rare, when a male finally challenges for the top position, he'll fight without restraint. In a way, the mob is like 2 societies. While females are in a continual cycle of caring for young, males devote their entire life to working up the hierarchy. One afternoon at the end of winter, an echidna appeared after months in hibernation. The ruse had forgotten whether she was friend or foe. Any dark shape moving in the grass arouses suspicion, and one ruse panic is everyone's. No one is willing to stick their neck out for long, except Jaffa. He's transfixed. Others may have run away, but not Columbine. She's typically less influenced by others in the mob, and even more so in her old age. Only a prick on the nose is good enough reason to leave. By the time Sunshade was 10 months old, she was becoming too large to ride in the pouch. Eucalypt kept her daughter isolated for a few days while Sunshade came to terms with being shut out. Sunshade may still suckle from outside, but Eucalypt has tightened her pouch muscles to stop her from diving right in. Keeping Sunshade away from other roos prevents her from running to someone else's pouch and being attacked. From now on, no matter what Sunshade is doing, it is her responsibility to keep track of her mother's movements and be ready to follow close on her tail. By accompanying their mothers each day, young roos come to know their part of the valley intimately. The best tracks, shortcuts, fence crossings, good water and safe places to rest. It's important to learn the pattern of stopping regularly, to listen, sniff the air and survey ahead. Mothers also go out of their way to visit the local landmarks. The upturned roots of this once mighty tree form a cave. It's an important site for the kangaroos. It's sometimes used during mating. Curiosity draws Sunshade inside. There are kangaroo smells everywhere. With Sunshade permanently out of the pouch, Eucalypt gave birth a few days later. She didn't need to mate. Instead, she activated an embryo she'd been holding on standby since a mating many months ago. Others did mate that spring, and once a female comes on heat, it is she who takes the lead in courtship. Cedar has been with Elka for 2 days. Now, in the last hours before mating, she's travelling the valley to advertise herself, just in case there is a larger, more dominant male around. Her promenade has attracted only a lineup of smaller males, but each is hopeful of sneaking in on Cedar. By asserting his dominance now, Cedar lessens the risk of interruption later. When Elka is ready to mate, she stands quite still. The hopefuls take up position. Once they're coupled, Cedar will be more vulnerable, and Elka risks harm if there's trouble. The surrounding males look for any opportunity to cut in. One male approaching too close is reason enough for Elka to break away. While Cedar takes care of him, another male behind makes a grab for her, and she's off. Other males join the chase, and Cedar follows until he can regain control. Elka is determined not to let some young whippersnapper mate with her. By the time she reached the tree cave, Cedar was not far behind. Now, if any subordinate males give trouble, she can crouch inside while Cedar chases them off, and if a male should attempt to mount in here, he would crack his head on the roof. For this young male, the game's over. Reassured she has the cave at hand if she needs it, Elka resumes courtship outside. Every courtship varies according to circumstance and the personalities on the day. Cedar's status doesn't always guarantee him a quiet, orderly mating. On days like today, his stamina and judgment are sorely tested. For Elka's part, she's secured the best genes in the mob for her Joey. Roos can detect a change in weather many hours in advance, and if the day is going to be windy, everyone sets off at dawn for the bottom of the valley. They travel from every corner, and females leave their normal feeding ranges. Sunshade's relatives head down from the southern ridges. It is now mid-spring, and Sunshade is quite used to shadowing her mother. Jaffa is also meant to be tailing his mother, but he's caught up at a fallen fence. Columbine keeps going, and he has to race to catch up. Like Sunshade, Jaffa no longer rides in the pouch. It is his responsibility to follow. It's only on these windy days that virtually the whole mob gathers together. The Roos have come to a river flat which lies on the valley floor and is protected from the gale now sweeping the ridges. The roar of the wind drowns any chance of them hearing a dingo approach. But from this place they can scan the slopes for danger. With more mothers to share watch, some can even relax. The day brings opportunities for joeys like Sunshade to meet strangers from the other end of the valley. Kangaroos partly rely on smell to recognize each other. Teenage females are particularly keen to meet this year's joeys, but mothers warn them off because young joeys are easily confused and can head for the wrong pouch. As latecomers hurry down, the gathering is inevitably turning into a social event. Ursud and every other male are taking advantage of having so many females in one place. He has interrupted Inga and her son during boxing practice. A boy's first lessons are with his mother. He uses her as a punching bag. When they first leave their mothers, young males, like El Niño and his friends, knock around in gangs. Young Cassia has progressed to kicking his mother. For a mother, having a son instead of a daughter is a gamble. If her son becomes top male, he can in 1 year carry her genes to more offspring than a daughter could in a lifetime. On the other hand, in spite of all the enthusiasm now, hardly any males make it to the top. If he does triumph, it will have been worth every kick. Jaffa also is in training for the fight of his life. The bush has just enough bounce in it to kick back. Meanwhile, Ursud and another large male are busy chatting up more females. All males engage in this, but they're discreet if a more senior male is nearby. Right now, Ursud would do well to look over his shoulder, for at this very moment, Cedar is announcing his arrival. For Ursud, the timing of his challenge is critical. If he miscalculates his chances, he could die. As Cedar strides past Ursud, each weighs up the other's condition. The two first met 6 years ago. Ursud came from the southern mob, Cedar from the north. They virtually grew up together, learned to fight together. Now Cedar has been top male for 2 years, and the younger Ursud looks ready to overthrow him. But today, Ursud gives way with a cough. Perhaps he's avoiding heat exhaustion, for males rarely fight when the sun is high. 3 days later, the winds brought them together again. At sunrise, Ursud was tailing a female as she headed for the valley floor. They ran into Cedar, and with a female at stake, neither male hesitated. Cedar jumps to the challenge. This will be no amateur boxing match. Fur flies, there's violence in every strike. Internal damage from these battles can be massive. Cedar crouches, eyeing his opponent. Everything they've learned together is now pitted against one another. Each male will be trying to get a headlock, to throw his opponent to the ground, then jump on him and kick while he's down. Cedar crouches again. He has the reach, the longer arms to get that headlock. And he does. He can't throw Ursud, but he's driving home the kicks. Cedar wrenches Ursud to the ground. Ursud's not giving up. He lashes out. Cedar reels back. He's tiring. Perhaps he can't win. His 2 years at the top are twice what other males have achieved, and it has taken its toll. With winning strength, Ursud pounds him. It's Cedar that rallies. Another headlock, and this time it's enough. Ursud is not willing to risk more. He coughs in defeat. Both males took life quietly for a few weeks while they recovered. Cedar's victory was an uneasy one, for by now he and Ursud were too closely matched. Tension persisted for months, until unexpectedly they divided the valley between them. Eastern grey kangaroos like open grassland surrounded by forest. They only came into this valley 40 years ago, when the farmers opened up clearings for cattle grazing. After the winter frosts, the pasture is bleached of all nutrition, so the farmers burn to bring on green shoots for their cattle. Most landowners shoot kangaroos, but here they're allowed to stay. For one thing, dingoes are less likely to attack calves while there are still joeys to hunt. The roos are not frightened by the fire. On the contrary, they move on to the ash as soon as the flames die in the night. In the morning, Jaffa has a whole new landscape to explore. His mother fossicks for succulent stubble exposed by the flames. It's an annual feast the roos enjoy immensely. They also seem to be taken with the novelty of it all. By mid-morning, there's a lot of extra grooming to be done, while a wary eye is kept on the cattle. They too like the stubble. After all, the fire was lit for them. The valley has become a patchwork of ash beds, green shoots, and islands of old grass. The days are hotter now, so the roos gather under shady trees while the sun is high. Jaffa and the other joeys remain restless, but for their mothers, this is their best opportunity to sleep, because dingoes will be back in the forest. Farm dogs may still be about, so they doze only a few minutes at a time, and always with half an ear on guard. There's a high noon curfew on all male politics, so Ursud sleeps in peace. Young males crib a few moments to annoy each other, then they too fall quiet. Around midday, the cattle usually head down for a drink. They detour as they go for favourite game of disturbing the roos. There's no arguing with such crushing bulk. The roos just bundle their joeys and leave. Usually everything is fairly orderly and the roos move on to the next shady grove. But this day, someone panicked. Perhaps he woke too suddenly. When one bolts, the rest follow. There may have been something more sinister moving in the grass. Panic spreads along the ridge, and soon virtually the whole mob is fleeing. One little soul was left behind. It's Jaffa. Most youngsters get lost in their first month out of the pouch. and there's a tried and proven plan to cope with it. The mother, who of course knows the country best, will retrace her steps, searching as she goes. The joey must stay put and keep hidden in the long grass. Jaffa can't seem to wait. Perhaps this is another lesson he didn't learn. Maybe the wind is scaring him. But wandering will only make his mother's search harder. By the time she reached the resting trees, Jaffa had travelled a long way. He could survive a couple of days without milk, but his greatest danger is exposure to predators. As the hours passed, Columbine became more distraught and started calling for Jaffa. At this time of year, dingoes have pups to feed. They set out from their lairs at sunset. At dawn, a female called Marla had claw marks all the way down her back, and her son's body lay half-eaten in the grass. All the roos were nervous. Columbine was still searching for Jaffa. Somehow, Jaffa has escaped from the dingo with his life, but he's been injured. Columbine is exhausted. She's searched all night and eaten very little. At last, they're together. The horrors of Jaffa's night are unimaginable. His nose is badly mauled. Bubbles of blood are making his breathing difficult. The back of one ear is torn. Their troubles are not over, for it's hot and exposed in this burnt hollow. Columbine wants to get him to the shelter of the forest, but it seems doubtful that Jaffa can travel. He musters all his strength, determined to follow. Columbine was never one to choose the best path. Such a small log, barely a jump, but now just the sight of it seems to knock him back. He sets off again, more strongly this time, heading for the forest. They reach the trees and safety. Jaffa is exhausted. At least now he can rest and be with his mother. By late afternoon, Columbine had moved a short distance away to feed. She keeps calling, and Jaffa tries very hard to follow, but he can't. Too sore and bewildered, he hasn't suckled. He's holding on to life with everything he has, but it doesn't seem enough. Jaffa died that evening. Columbine kept returning to his body. When finally she did leave him, her calls could be heard for 2 days. The cycle of life passed into summer, the time of monsoonal rains and lush grass. The roos have nowhere to shelter from the rain and are nervous. As with the wind, they cannot hear above the downpour. The best they can do is keep together. Sunshade is over a year old now, but of the 30 joeys born in the valley that year, only Sunshade and 2 others survived to see the summer. Sunshade has a little sister who is 4 months old and hidden in the pouch. The 2 young suckle from separate nipples. Eucalypt supplies each with a different milk formula and changes the composition as each daughter grows. Even though Sunshade grazes, her milk ration is an enormous burden for her mother and cannot last. It's about time Sunshade was looking after herself. Summer is a time of plenty in the valley. It can also be oppressively hot, so the roos take life quietly, resting for most of the day. As summer was closing, Sunshade reached the final chapter of her childhood. Eucalypt has stopped giving Sunshade her milk, and gone too are the grooming sessions. Every time Sunshade reaches for the pouch, there's trouble. She keeps trying to win her mother over, but it's useless. Sunshade's future is full of promise. She's inherited genes from the most successful grandmother in the valley. Her mother Eucalypt has taught her well, but it is time to let go. For all she's inherited, Sunshade is by no means a replica of her mother. She has her own character and makes her own decisions. Raising Sunshade took Eucalypt a year and a half. Now the new Joey is almost ready to start her lessons and will occupy all Eucalypt's time and energy. Sunshade may feel she's been forgotten, but soon she'll be taking her place in the valley as one of the faces in the mob.